I have photos. Does anyone need a copy of the photos and copy of the, pardon me? Okay, so here are some packets of photos if anyone wants some. I also submitted a thumb drive that someone was going to try to pick up for those of you that don't have it. And if someone needs a copy of my affidavit or something like that, I have those here as well.
To speak so that we can hear you.
Oh,
you're
let me
gonna have
take
to
this
pull
off.
your mask off. Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you.
You forget they're on.
That's right.
Okay, so,
Ms. Smith, would you state your full name and address where you live
yes,
for the record, and then you can talk about your experience as a poll worker in Hart County?
sure. My name is Dana Van Buren Smith, and I reside in Hartwell, Georgia, and I was a poll worker for the November 3rd election, and I was also a poll watcher for the first initial paper ballot count on November 13th, and also a poll watcher for counting the absentee ballots on the following Monday, which would be November 16th. I, in my regular life, have been a licensed practical nurse for 33 years, and I got laid off from my urgent care job because of low census with COVID infections. Our census dropped at our urgent care center, and then we relocated to Georgia about 6 months ago. So I found myself without a lot to do and some time on my hands, so I decided just to do my patriotic duty and be a poll watcher. So I went through the training and I was really excited, and I felt like our process in Hart County was good. You know, going into it, I thought, oh, this is going to be solid. It was wonderful. I was excited for the day. But as the day progressed and as things happened, I became more and more alarmed. I have 4 things that really bothered me, and I'm going to move through the initial 3 things pretty quickly because the big thing is at the end. The first thing, and I'm going to kind of read it to help myself out. On Election Day, someone had turned the natural gas off to the building. And so we had set up all of the machines the day before, and the heat was working in the rec center where our polling place was. I understand that that rec center used to be a barn that had been converted into this rec center. And so it's a big hulking building, and it was freezing cold when we got in there. That morning I had got up, and we had been in the low 30s. And I had to use my heated seat in my car and my heater, and we arrived and the building was really cold. So they called HVAC people in, and the HVAC people worked all morning, and it was sometime afternoon that an HVAC guy came in and said that someone had shut off the natural gas to the building, and that's why our heat wasn't working. He indicated that nothing was wrong with the heater. Some unknown person in the night had shut off the gas to the building. Well, we all cheered and hoorayed because the heat finally came on, and at that time I did not know that Georgia law requires that electronic equipment be kept in a climate-controlled environment, which having it in a freezing cold building all night long, in my view, does not constitute a climate-controlled environment. I found this out the next night when I read Georgia law. Because of all the things that happened, I thought I probably better figure out what is going on here. And that's when I learned that the machines were supposed to be in a climate-controlled environment. There is no alarm system in the place where these things are being stored to notify if these machines have come out of climate control compliance. And I noted in the Georgia election law that there isn't a requirement to have an alarm system. And so my plea to you is that I think you need to look at that and require these places, maybe free up some money so these places could get a $300 alarm system to let them know if they have in fact violated the law and gone out of compliance. I do not know with the temperature that night if they were out of the range, but in in January, when we have our election coming up, the Georgia mountains can be pretty chilly. So you probably ought to look into that. How can you verify if something went out of compliance if you have no alarm? I do know that someone in the night shut the gas off to the building, and we had a really cold building. I don't know who did that, what time, or why, because there was no alarm. The next concern I have is that the Democratic poll watcher checked in the morning and then left for the rest of the day. The sheriff who was on hand stated to us that he was sitting out in his car in the parking lot all day, which I thought was an interesting place for him to be watching what was going on. Our Republican poll watcher, mid-morning, was removed by an official because the supervisor could not locate her paperwork. Also, no one had supplied her with the proper paperwork, so she was missing for a while. I put in my statement several hours. I spoke with her after because I wasn't sure how long she was gone, and she said it wasn't several hours, it was about a half an hour. But she was so upset, she returned to her home and didn't stay there, and was gone for a period of time because she was so rattled by what had happened. The third issue I noted was that the special printing paper for the paper ballots to be printed on was not secured, and mid-morning there was a poll watcher walking around with this special ballot paper, taking coffee orders on it, writing down coffee orders on this special ballot paper that prints the ballots, those precious ballots. She was taking a coffee order on it. To me, anyone can just walk over and grab that specialty paper and then get in their order for the ballots they want to print. All of that is pretty upsetting, but the worst thing to me is where those pictures come in, and I don't know, are we able to put the pictures up for people can see? I gave a thumb drive to someone.
Sure. Are those are the pictures that you passed out? I think.
It's the
Been
pictures that I
circulated.
passed out, but I
Yes.
had a thumb drive as well so that everyone could see.
Okay. Yes, if you could pass the thumb drive over to our assistant.
Okay, I'll give you some background to the pictures while they're putting up the thumb drive. With all the electronic voting equipment, the poll pads, the ballot marking devices, the scanner, all of those pieces of equipment have these plastic numbered tag locks that secure them. The other thing that secures those is a chain of custody form or a recap form. That's how you know that the SD cards haven't been removed, that nothing's been tampered with. It's these numbered locks that protect all those items, and the chain of custody forms that are witnessed by two people verify the numbers on those locks. And as soon as you pull those plastic tabs out, they break and you can't reuse them. So if you were going to tamper, now you have a problem as long as there's a chain of custody form with two witnesses, because that's what proves what the lock number was. At the end of the night, the polling station closed, and we were getting, packing up all the equipment, and it's a very arduous process. Every piece of equipment has these recap forms, these chain of custody forms. You're double checking the locks, you're relocking them, you're securing them, you're checking serial numbers and bagging them up in the case that matches the piece of equipment. It's a very rigorous setup so that you can ensure that you're locking up this electronic equipment in a way that it can't be tampered with at any given time. So at the end of the night, we go to empty these scanners. So the voter comes in, they present at the polling pad, they show their ID, we give them a green, like a credit card. They go over to the ballot marking device and they put it in their ballot marking machine. They electronically vote and mark who they want. Then it prints a paper ballot on that specialty paper, right? The voter then takes that specialty paper printed ballot, they carry it over to one of the scanner machines, and we ask them to look at the paper ballot and make sure that it shows who they voted for. That paper ballot is the safeguard. That's why we ask them to look at it so that they can confirm that's who they voted for. At that point, the voter puts it into the scanner where it's scanned electronically. The paper ballot then drops down into a large container, somewhat similar to like a garbage can, a big plastic garbage can, and all day long, all those paper ballots fall down into that container, all hodgepodge, every which way, and just collect in that. So at the end of the night, and that scanner and that container, that's protected with actually a couple of mechanical locks and a couple of numbered plastic security locks like those you see in the picture. So at the end of the night, the final task is to unlock those bins and collect all of those paper ballots that have fallen into that big container. We collect all of those. You look up inside and make sure none of them have been hung up. There are at least two witnesses for each of those bins, which there's two of those bins. We had 4 people plus a couple other people around, plus our local sheriff was there as well. So all these people are watching us take out these paper ballots. And we put them into these red canvas bags. It looks kind of orangey in the picture, but there was one red canvas bag per bin, and there was also the red canvas bag that held the provisional ballots that were brought in for that night. So we bring them in. These bags have a specialty zipper and then this flap lock so that red numbered tab lock can go in them. So we get all the paper ballots into the red bags, zip them up, and I said, where are the number locks? And nobody could find the number locks. They'd gone missing. So I got the supervisor, Sarah's, attention, and I said, we need the number locks. And these locks are a little different configuration than the ones that go on the voting machines and stuff. They just click in there, and then if you pull it out, it breaks. So she said she didn't have any, and for us to just zip it up and throw them in the blue totes, which are the other pictures that you see, unsecured, and that would be good enough, and they would drive them to the election office, which is maybe between 10 and probably 10 to 12 minutes from our polling place. And I told her, no way, we are not loading these paper ballots into the back of your car with you and your friend to drive them to the election office. You call Robin at the election office and you tell her to have someone bring us the locks. She rolled her eyes, literally, walked away, and I just sat there watching those ballots. I was not going to let those out of my sight. Me and another gal named Lori. There was a gal named Gloria. There was an elderly guy that I think had COPD because I brought him his oxygen and helped him out there. We sat there and watched those paper ballots to be sure they were secure until those numbered tag locks could come. So we waited about 20 minutes and they still hadn't come. So I flagged down our supervisor again and said, hey, is somebody bringing those tab locks? And she said,
Ms. Smith, can you wrap it up?
Yep.
We got a lot.
Okay, so she said, we don't need them. And I said, I'm not leaving here until you bring them. So finally, after my second request, they brought the numbered tab locks. And so I asked where the chain of custody forms were. And she said they didn't have any. And I said, it does no good to lock them without a chain of custody form. And she refused to do a chain of custody form and demanded that we throw them in her car. And that's when I took the pictures to document the numbers protecting those paper ballots. In my job as a nurse, if you send a urine drug screen to the lab and it's all sealed up, but you have no chain of custody form, they throw it away because the chain of custody form is what proves it hasn't been tampered with. Those bags left that place with the tags I pitched a fit on about and took pictures of, but no chain of custody form. I had no idea what would happen to them after they left that place. I followed the supervisor and her friend, and the sheriff made sure the bags got into the election office, went home, couldn't sleep. Well, I went actually to our poll worker who'd been kicked out's house, had a sleepless night. The next day, I went to the local election office and met with our local election authorities. They wouldn't listen. I gave them pictures of the tab locks, asked them could we at least look at them and make sure they're still sealed and do a chain of custody form. They refused. He told me, Gary Hamilton, my commissioner on the election board, said it wouldn't matter if a couple 100 ballots went missing. That was the response from my local election office. And so here I knew that we had these unsecured. All our paper ballots were completely unsecured. Less secure than someone's urine drug screen, right? So then on the Friday, the 13th, when we go to do our initial count of the paper ballots, guess what? They come out of the back room in cardboard boxes, not in the bags I sealed on election night. And there's no chain of custody form. There is no documentation of what happened to those people's ballots between when I locked them up election night and when they walked out in cardboard boxes. I had to bite my tongue because I was a poll watcher and I couldn't take pictures, but there's a whole room full of people who could corroborate that they came out in cardboard boxes, not in those canvas bags. Now you tell me why. They all cheered when the paper ballot count matched the machine count. It means nothing when you count paper ballots that have been handled, removed from their sealed containers, and no documentation of what happened to them in between. Counting paper ballots means zip, nothing, absolutely nothing. And it's infuriating, and I can't believe it happened.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Thank you very much.
Senator Jordan. Just a second.
Oh, one other point, I also counted the absentee. I watched for counting the absentee ballots, and one of the workers asked how they verified the signatures, and a little old lady stood up and said, "Oh, I verified 90% of them." One lady, one little old lady, looks at all those absentee ballots and decides whose signature stays and whose signature goes. You tell me what oversight and verification process that is. I'm sorry.
I think you had a question, Senator Jordan.
Yeah, just a quick question. And so you were a poll worker in Hart County, Georgia?
Correct.
And with respect to the ultimate count there, isn't it true that President Trump won that county 9,465 votes to 3,100
It is,
approximately?
which is remarkable. So the Trump team is willing to listen to me, someone who lives in a county where Trump won by a landslide, because I want to tell you, I don't give a rip who won. What matters to me is that the people's vote is more protected than their urine. Think about it. It doesn't matter who won. Those paper ballots were not secure. I don't care if you're a Democrat, a Republican. I don't care if you voted for Minnie Mouse. I don't care. The process is flawed when your urine is more protected than your vote. And that is what happened. And that's why I'm here, because you need to fix the holes that jeopardize every single person sitting in this chair. I don't care who they voted for. Those voters, I saw a woman lead her blind husband in to vote. I saw a man pull up in a big van and come out in his electric wheelchair to vote. Those are my voters. It's my job to protect their vote. It's your job as legislators to ensure that there are safeguards for their votes, and that when the law is broken and people don't follow the law, You're supposed to make sure that they do. That's your job. And it's not just my vote, it's yours too. Think about it. Your vote might not have counted either. Not a single person in this room. You don't know. You weren't there. I was there. I thank you for your time, and I hope you'll take what these people are telling you seriously. It's important. The people's voice matters in this country.
It does.
Thank you.
Thank you for
very
being
much.
here. Thank you for,
very
and
much.
thank you for
Thank you.
being willing to work and give your time
Thank you.
to work to
very
protect the
much.
vote.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We have one short witness if you want before you take
okay,
a break.
That would be fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Grace Lemon.
Yeah, if you would tell us a little bit your name and where you live, and then tell us